Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Todd Crosland. He's one of the sponsors of the show. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Devin. Happy to be here.
We really appreciate you taking the time to be here. We really just can't thank you enough for being a sponsor of the show and making this possible. Todd, I want to jump in here with going back in time. You launched and ran a very successful business called Interbank FX. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Oh, sure. So that's a company we founded back in 2001. And so we were a registered futures commission merchant with the CFTC and the National Futures Association in the US. Then also registered as a derivatives dealer with ASIC in Australia. And we grew the company. We had offices in Beijing, Sydney, Seoul, Hong Kong, London, and the US. And we onboarded about 250,000 customers in 140 countries. And wow. we grew the company, was approaching 180 employees. At the end of 2011, I sold the business to a large broker out of Tokyo, Japan called the Monex Group. And they also own a US broker called TradeStation that's a broker-dealer.
Right.
And so that was a little bit of background on a previous business.
So have you ever disclosed how much you sold that business for?
We don't. It was private.
But you did okay, is my understanding.
Yes.
You did okay. So the reason I wanted to go there is today I wanted to tap into some of your expertise as a venture capitalist, as an investor, as a broker dealer who runs a crowdfunding site. You're sort of all those things in one today, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that you yourself are a very successful entrepreneur. And so your advice to entrepreneurs isn't just from the standpoint of this is what we'd like to see as an investor, but you've been in their shoes and you've been through that path, that trajectory rather successfully. So with that as a background, you offered up in a pre-interview a couple of points that we can start with, and I think we'll try and tap you for more. But first, you said trust your instincts. Tell us a little bit about why you think that's so important.
Well, especially if you're starting a company, there's a lot of naysayers in the world. And hopefully you can come across some mentors along the way that can give you sound advice. But at the end of the day, it comes down to you and your own instinct. If you feel there's an opportunity or a different industry that's ready for disruption, or a product or service that could become a needed product and service in the marketplace, then I think you have to, go with your gut instinct.
It's interesting. There's a lot of argument, especially in the marketing world, about listening to your customers. And for entrepreneurs, I've never found that to be as powerful an insight as your argument to trust your instincts. How do you weigh those two against one another, compare and contrast the value of listening to your customers with following your instincts?
Well, I think as you launch your company or service, you may not have a lot of customers, but I do think as you start to get traction and grow either revenues or users to your website or your platform, I think you do need to listen to your customers to see, one, are you servicing their needs? Are they getting the value that they've bargained for in coming to your firm? And so I think trust your instincts, but I think you also need to listen to what the customers are asking for as well.
Yeah, it seems like customers can give you tremendous feedback on what you're offering. What they struggle to do, it seems to me, is to provide you great insights with where you should be going. Because oftentimes the entrepreneur, a great entrepreneur, and I'm not one, you are, but a great entrepreneur has a better idea oftentimes of where we ought to go than a customer. And you probably saw that with Interbank FX.
Well, I think the entrepreneur will have the vision on what he thinks, what he or she thinks that they need to accomplish, and how they need to take the company in a certain direction. But I think along those lines, you definitely want to keep a pulse on the customer base, and if the customer base is growing and they're happy and they're buying your product or service, then that's a validation that you've chosen the right direction and moving forward.
Yeah. Your second point was that it's important to put the right people in the right positions. And in fact, you said that trumps even having a clear direction for the company. It's so important to have a good team. Tell us a little bit about that, because as an experienced entrepreneur and an investor, that is really an important lesson, I think, for people to understand.
And I think that's, as we look at companies to invest in or raise capital for, we really start with the team, with the founders, how they interact, what type of team they've assembled. And, you can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't have, the right team assembled, it kind of goes back to, maybe 15 years ago, I read the Jim Collins book, Good to Great, and he talks about having the right people on the bus, the right person in marketing, the right person running your technology department, the right person in sales, good financial people as well. And so as your startup grows from a couple of people, I think to be selective and getting the right people to help you and to help the organization to mature, I think having those key people is important. And if you've got a toxic person as one of your key managers of the company, that can bring down the rest of your organization. So I think getting the right and key people is so critical.
How do you, in that early stage, and maybe you had to go through this in the early days, either at Interbank FX or perhaps even at Seed Equity, but what do you do when you've got someone on the bus who really shouldn't be there? In a small organization, it's hard to just reassign someone new duties. If they're not a fit in a 5-person company, there may not be another desk for them to sit at. What do you do?
Well, I think you need to make the hard decision for the best interests of the company or organization to make a change. If the fit isn't there and it's not working, and I've had to make those tough decisions before, and but invariably, it's helped the entire organization. And one, part of owning a business or running a business, for me, I get a euphoria effect sometimes, where you think of an idea and you execute it, you're getting traction, and then so one, it's fun to come up with an idea and to launch it, but then the people that you spend so much time with, you may as well enjoy being around those people. So getting the right people on the bus that are competent, but also people that you would enjoy spending a good part of your day with. I think that's equally as important.
It really is a challenge to find bright, capable people who are sort of the easygoing people you want to hang out with all the time. I aspire to be that kind of person, but I struggle to both be smart enough and easygoing enough to do that. But so I really appreciate that really powerful insight, because I think it's important to build that kind of a team.
Well, I'll give you an example, Devin. There was we were looking to build out our institutional sales team at my former company, and we hired a headhunter to, supposedly find, the best and the brightest in our industry out of one of the major New York City, banks and brokerage firms. And we found a person, had all the qualifications, years of experience. It was a big ticket hire for us, but we thought this is what we needed as an organization. And it turned out to be a toxic hire for the entire organization. And it didn't last too long. We had, I had to make a change. So I just can't emphasize how important that is. Assembling the right team to move forward. And I think as far as, I like positive people. I don't, you don't want a bunch of, yes men or yes women, but, people that are generally optimistic about, life or business, pleasant to work with. That's what I tried to gravitate towards.
Yeah. Well, Todd, you're in a really exciting space here, running a broker dealer with a focus on crowdfunding kinds of capital raises. Tell us a little bit about how your operation works to provide context, and then I'm going to ask you another question as a follow-up. But just give us some context about how your business works.
Sure. So this last year, we went through the metrics at the end of the year. We vetted about 600 companies that came to us for potential financing. And of those 600, we've financed 8. And so pretty selective on the companies that we looked at. But the ones that we financed, some have gone on to do a Series A round at a higher valuation. And we think the group that we've got now has some nice traction in the marketplace, and they're growing. So, but just to maybe back up a little bit, as we get an application to raise capital with our firm, we'll, one, we look at the individuals, we look at their history, anything that we can gather on, the people online. Then we start our due diligence process, and then if it's an industry that we like, if it's a differentiated service or technology, then we'll take it to the next step and interview the founders, spend more time. Then if that continues to go well, we'll do additional due diligence on their financials and their pro formas, and make sure all their legal documents are in order with their incorporation status. Look at their cap tables. And so if all that goes forward, then we sign a placement agreement with them, and we have an escrow account with US Bank, and we set up escrow, and then we launch a campaign for them.
And so when you launch a campaign, are you putting automatically some of your own capital in? Do you sometimes do that? And then who are the investors you're putting deals in front of?
Sure. So we have an affiliate entity. It's Seed Equity Venture Fund 1 LP, and that entity is invested in about 75% of the deals that we have raised money for to date. And then as far as investors in the broker dealer, we have about 9,000 investors and entrepreneurs on the platform now from 125 countries.
Wow.
So it's a broad base of investors and entrepreneurs from around the world. And then, part of what we're excited about, and really one of the main reasons why we launched this business, was to potentially participate in with equity crowdfunding, in addition to other, broker dealer services that we can offer, but offer these same investment opportunities to smaller non-accredited investors as well.
So right now you're putting these deals in front of people who meet accreditation standards under SEC rules using 506B and 506C typically for the offerings, right?
That's correct.
Very interesting model. Have you given any thought to using Regulation A, or A plus as they're calling the new Regulation A rules?
So we obviously can do those types of offerings. We haven't had the right type of company that has come to us that was looking to do that type of a raise. I think that's in the VC world. If you're going to raise, $50 million, it's probably it could be a C or a D round for you. And if you've had a lineup of A, B, and C investors, they would probably go along with you to help you raise that big amount. So I personally think that the Reg A Plus will be, if they're looking to raise, up to $50 million, those will be for pretty unique companies. So it wouldn't be for, it might be for like, a well-known company like, not a Facebook, but somebody, it's already a big brand in the world where they can go out to the global, marketplace and do a private offering with lots of investors. But for a kind of a newer company looking to do, a Reg A Plus offering without a really significant customer base already, I think they would be hard pressed to raise, a significant amount with A plus. That's my thought.
Yeah, it seems to be borne out. One of the more successful deals I've seen was an offering for Elio Motors. They raised about $16 million, but they had thousands of people who'd already committed to buy cars as potential investors. And I suspect they were initially hoping to raise 50 and ended up with 16. Not a bad day, but not $50 million. So, yeah. Now, I want to wrap up with this key question. Help us understand exactly the criteria you would most want to see in companies that pitch to you to get on your platform.
So, the number one criteria we look for is traction. And so we get people that will pitch us and, I'm working at the bank. I've got this idea. If you'll fund my startup, I'll quit my job. That's too early for us. And we wish them well and tell them what we're looking for. In my mind, you have to have crossed the Rubicon and you've burned your boats. You have to have both feet into this, your new business. And so if you have personal capital and personal commitment with this company, and then, you've launched your product, maybe you came out of an accelerator, and you're starting to get traction in the marketplace. We invested in a company out of Y Combinator this last summer, and they launched and had, great traction and limited revenues, but really good traction in the marketplace. And that's kind of an ideal, company that we look for. They have to have some type of traction with their company.
I see. Fantastic. Well, Todd, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. Before you go, be sure to tell people how they can get in touch with you, how they can learn more about Seed Equity Ventures.
Sure. So seedequity.com is our website, and my email is crosland@seedequity.com. So happy to answer questions or help out where we can.
Fantastic. Well, Todd, thank you very much for being with us. We wish you every success in financing these great young companies.
Great. Devin, thank you very much.
All righty. Let's do some good.